listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, one and all. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Mutual Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and now on the all-new IPBN Radio Network. If you'd like to send me an email, whether or not your tinfoil hat is too tight or not, my email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our radio website, where you can find out what we've done in the past, what we're doing today, and what we will be doing in the future at www.xzoneradio.com. Don't forget, X-Zone Nation, you can always now go to X-Zone TV and watch the first 12 episodes of the X-Zone TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, as I interview, let me see, some of the guests are Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, Stanton T. Friedman, Stephen Bassett, Dr. Joel Mara, Dr. Don K. Preston, just to name a few, including Michael Horn, and that's at www.xzonetv.com. The other night I had a guest on the show, Robbie Rush, and he was a demonologist, or he is a demonologist, I should say. And during the interview, he was rather adamant, based on his religious philosophical beliefs, that when you pray to someone, that means it's evil. If you believe in something else, including shamanism, you're part of an occult group. That got me, because I know for a fact that shamanism is not an occult. group. And I decided to bring my good friend, the host of The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka on the show tonight, Gwilda Wiyaka, who is a shaman. She's also a teacher. She's an instructor. She's an author. And if anybody could set the world straight on what shamanism is all about, it's this lady. So without further ado, Gwilda Wiyaka, welcome back to the X Zone, my friend. By the way, I love your show, The Science of Magic.
Well, Rob, thanks for having me on, and I'm glad you like the show.
Gwilda, you listened to the interview, and what was your take? Why would anybody consider shamanism as part of the occult?
Well, to answer that, I have to back up a little bit, and let's define occult. Yeah, I love language anyway. So it has Latin origins, and it means obscure or hidden from view. Now, that means that anything that's not visible is occult. And so another one is not apparent on mere inspection, but discoverable by experimentation. Mm-hmm. Or medically speaking, it means anything that's too small to observe by the human eye. And that includes things that you can see under a microscope. So there's lots of different meanings for the occult. And lately, in this century, they've decided to use occult as a catch wagon for anything that they don't want to look at too closely, they're afraid of, or want to condemn, it seems like to me, because there's a whole catchphrase of what they're calling occult that seem to have nothing related. If the only thing they have in common is that they're hidden from view, mm-hmm. Well, you and I are practicing the occult right now because you can't see radio waves, right?
That's right. You can't.
So it is and it isn't occult, is part of what shamanism works with. Unseen, yes, because it's at the quantum level. Mm-hmm. Is it evil or demonic? No, not unless it's misused. It's like anything else.
You and I have to take our first break, Gwilda. Please stand by. Exonation. Gwilda Wiyaka is our special guest. Gwilda is the hostess of The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka. That is heard here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. It is also heard Saturdays and Sunday on the Mutual Broadcast Network. And Gwilda's going to have her show on the IPBN radio network as well. If you'd like to send us an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com is the email address. And my question to you, X Zone Nation, is, do you believe that the occult should be the umbrella under a lot of different venues like Wicca, like shamanism, like other parts and practices within religious philosophies? Send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Radio Show with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com. Welcome back, everyone. Gwilda Wiyaka is our guest this hour, and Gwilda is a shaman. She is a teacher. She is an author, and she's also the radio host of The Science of Magic that airs here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and on the Mutual Broadcast Network. Her website, www.thescienceofmagic.com. Now, Gwilda, why do you think there is so much misunderstanding about the shamanic arts?
Well, they were studied first by anthropologists from the outside, and the practice itself, when it comes from indigenous people, has a lot of sleight of hand, a lot of using of articles and rattles and drums and dancing and chanting and incantations, and it looks pretty intense from the outside. It looks kind of a mystical, magical, superstitious, and that sort of thing. But actually, what it really is, the rituals that they use are just an organized set of rituals designed to help that practitioner focus their natural ability to manage matter at the quantum level. So each tradition had its own ways of doing that, and as long as you stick to the principles, you don't have to do all the incantations of the jumping up and down or the chopping off heads of chickens that was traditional so many years ago. But we've almost eradicated shamanism off the planet, and so it has not evolved with the times. And that's kind of been my mission, is to bring the practice forward into a format that people can understand today.
Gwilda, is there any correlation between shamanism and Wicca?
Really not to my knowledge. Wicca is, I believe, a religion, and, they say witchcraft and Wicca are the same, but they really aren't. They're two different practices as far as I know. Now, I'm not an expert on either one, but Wicca and shamanism are not related to my knowledge.
All right, so what is the difference between shamanism and religion?
Well, shamanism is attached at the hip to the religion of all cultures, and I guess I need to back up a little and tell you that it's not just a Native American practice. There's Native American religion, And then there's Native American shamanism. There's Buddhism, and then there's Tibetan shamanism. There's Siberian shamanism, and we could go on and on. So basically, while the shaman were attached at the hip to the religion, they're not one and the same. So just like you might go to a Catholic priest, a Jesuit probably, to do a depossession. That doesn't mean every priest does depossessions. The depossession would be a shamanic practice, but the priest is the religious leader, if that makes sense.
You know, when I think of shamanism, I think of the Native American shaman, and they were revered. They were the wise man of their community. So why is it that there are still people today, Gwilda, who look at shamanism as a black art?
That's pretty strange, isn't it? Yeah, it's like, religion is supposed to take care of the moral health of the people.
Right.
And shamanism is supposed to take care of the spiritual health or the balance at the quantum level or the frequency level of people. Mm-hmm. And because we work in the unseen, people that are afraid of the unseen have started looking at it like a dark art. And it can be used in a dark way. Anything can. But it wasn't designed to be that way. It was designed to be bring balance back to people, bring balance back to place and thing, and work with the way life works, which is working with the way God works.
Then how does shamanism differ from sorcery?
Well, that's by my definition. Okay, now this is strictly the way I teach it. Shamanism has 5 basic rules that I teach that it really needs to follow. Because there is a fine line between shamanism and sorcery. The first rule is you never take energy away from where it does belong. You never put energy where it doesn't belong. You never do harm. You never work without permission, and you always work within natural law. Now, sorcery uses ritual and incantations and intent and managing matter at the quantum level, but they will tend to take energy away from where it does belong, in other words, steal energy from others, or put energy where it doesn't belong, as in cast a curse. They work without permission. They break the laws of nature for their own personal gain, possibly at the at the detriment to others. Sure. And that's the major difference. Is how are you using it, and what's your intent, and are you working in balance?
So many shamanic practices seem to pray or worship multiple spirits. Now, is it just multiple spirits, or is it multiple deities as well?
This is one of the greatest misnomers, and I think it's really misunderstood even sometimes by the practitioners.
Okay.
I think of worshiping the spirits, if you will, as like training wheels on a bicycle. The spirits in the shamanic way, or in any way, the angels, whatever you want to look at it, are divinations of the whole, or little pieces of the great spirit that make more sense to us. Because, I've heard people say, oh, well, I don't pray to anybody but God. Well, that's fine, but you can't hear God. We think we're so big that we can possibly comprehend all that is? Well, no, you can't. And so these smaller divinations of all that is makes it understandable to the human mind, and it comes in metaphorical form that we see as power animals or helping spirits or angels or this or that. But it all comes from the same source.
So why do you think so many religious organizations and groups judge against what they refer to as the occult?
I think that there's 2 things operating there. One is I think there's a lot of fear. And once a person goes into fear, they polarize against what they're afraid of, and therefore they make it wrong and bad and evil. And that makes them feel safer if they can go black and white, right and wrong, and that keeps me safe. The other is control, and that would be what the ones at the top of that little pyramid manage over the ones that are in fear, is they use dogmatic adherences to judgmental beliefs to keep the people polarized in fear and therefore controllable.
But every religious philosophy does that.
Yes, it does, to a certain extent.
Let's look at Christianity. I'm a Christian, and I was told when I was a kid that if I wasn't good when I passed on, I'd go to hell and spend eternity burning. Or you have to do this, you have to do that. If you don't, you're going to go to hell when you die. Later in life, I learned that hell was here on earth. But it is a control factor. It has always been a control factor. And the way that I see it, Gwilda, is that throughout the ages, it's been a big marketing game between the different philosophies. Who can scare who to come over to their side? Whereas with the pagan rituals, and certain pagan rituals, I should say, and shamanism, it's totally different. I don't understand. I don't see a control factor in shamanism.
Well, if it's true shamanism, the control factor is the control and mastery of self. And the control and mastery of self is indicated in a society that works on a pyramid structure. So our society is designed around whoever's top dog gets to rule the roost.
Right.
And that's very well, like I say, whoever's top dog rules the roost, and therefore there's no room for individual empowerment within that. And so the other thing about shamanism is to practice it. You don't have to have group agreement or like a cult activity. All you have to do is learn the principles, align with the way life works, and who you're working with is the law of nature, which is the law of God.
In some shamanistic practices, do they use mind-altering substances?
They're the minority, and I don't advocate that in my school, and here's the reason. You really need to be very, very processed and have been studying and in the practice for years and years and years before you take those kind of initiations, so you have the substance to use them to transcend ordinary reality versus get lost in the ethers. And lately, in our society, and I've seen in this country, people are going on these great ayahuasca tours where people of dubious heritage and of dubious training, because they're of the right nationality, take people out and give them these big ayahuasca journeys. They come back, they're shattered, and I get more clients that way because I'm having to put them back together because they weren't ready for that kind of an experience. They couldn't ground it, they couldn't make sense of it, and it really shatters their lives. So it's like anything else. There's a right and a wrong use for it, a right and a wrong time for it, and it's something you have to handle very, very carefully. But it's so easy to push beyond your substance by using mind-altering substances that I really don't recommend it.
So basically it's like staying in the wading pool and then deciding that you want to jump off the high board without learning how to swim.
That is a perfect analogy.
I was talking to someone earlier today who was a film producer, and he's working on a documentary on natural, what's it called? All the natural cures that we have forgotten, but now we are coming back to. And he has gone on one of these ayahuasca voyages, and he said it was an opening experience to him. I wouldn't do it.
Well, I won't tell you all the initiations I've been subjected to with the different traditions that I've studied. Doesn't mean I'd recommend it.
Well, no, you've opened the door. No, I'm only kidding with you. So, are there any pitfalls to the shamanistic rituals?
Well, certainly to the shamanic practice, there are major pitfalls. And we mentioned it earlier when we're talking about that fine line between shamanism and sorcery. So say, for instance, it's really easy to slide into sorcery and not even know it. Christians practice sorcery on a regular basis when they get together and they do a prayer group without the permission of who they're praying for. Now, prayer has a lot of power. But these people get together and they decide what's going to be right for this person, and they pray for that to happen to them. Oh, let him see the wrong of his ways. Oh, let this happen. Oh, let that happen. Well, that's sorcery. And shamanism can be used the same way. Because you're working at the quantum level, which is what prayer does, if you aren't very mindful that you aren't putting your own agenda in here and that you're actually in fact, staying within those 5 laws we mentioned earlier, you can do harm to people. You can put influences on them that don't belong. You can inadvertently cast curses, if you will.
Wow.
And that's harmful.
Gwilda, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Gwilda Wiyaka is our special guest, and Gwilda is the host of The Science of Magic. Visit her website. She has a number of great interviews that are available to one and all at www.thescienceofmagic.com. And Gwilda and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue talking about the occult versus shamanism on the other side of this break. Don't forget, you can always send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and visit our website, www.xzoneradio.com. I am Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerrean intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Ram and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerrean Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerrean Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com. Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Gwilda Wiyaka is our special guest this hour. Gwilda is the host of The Science of Magic. And if you'd like to listen to some of the great interviews that Gwilda has done pertaining to how would you classify the interviews that you do? What are the subject matter?
Well, it's wide and varied. We work, I work with medical doctors. Sometimes I'm working with astrologers, astronomers, Wicca. Basically, anything of the esoteric and science, I try to bridge them together. So if my guest is bringing in the esoteric, then my teaching at the beginning will bring in the scientific aspect of that. And if I've got a scientist, I'll bring in the if I got a scientist, I'll bring in the esoteric. If I have an esoteric, I'll bring in the scientific. And we just have fun dancing because they're all coming together right now, and it's fun to find that understanding between each other.
By the way, I love the idea that you give a lesson at the beginning of every episode that works right with the guest that you have on. That's very good.
Well, thank you.
All right, let's get back to the topic here. Robbie Rush was on the show the other day, and he basically blanketed everything as being part of the occult if it didn't fit within his religious beliefs. And as I said to him on air, hey, they're your beliefs, I respect them, but you have to respect other people's beliefs as well. Now, what do you think some of the dangers of dabbling in the paranormal are, Gwilda?
Well, the dangers of dabbling in the paranormal, and quite frankly, from what I heard of that interview, there might have been a fair amount of danger in dabbling going on there. But the danger of dabbling in the paranormal is if you don't really have a solid foundation in the principles and how to use them and how to manage the frequency and matter at the quantum level, then you can kind of get a mixed match going on. And that's what's caused all these legends of evil spirits entering this realm and all that. Basically, what you're doing is you're causing a bleed over of frequencies into what we call ordinary reality if you don't know how to close those gates when you're opening them. And that's a pretty advanced skill. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can kind of make an energetic mess. But it's just a matter of incompatible frequencies. It's not like something evil or nasty is going to chase you down.
So is it possible then that some religious philosophies are being misused?
Yes, I'd have to say it's not just possible, it's very, very probable. Again, like we said, some of them are being used for control of the masses, control of the individual, control of the money.
Yes.
Some of them are being used for control of the mind, think my way. And that goes again into when we're talking like a cult, you get more than one person in agreement on anything, and that sets the frequency and therefore creates the reality of that thing. And so you can conjure a ghost by everybody sitting around and believing in one. I mean, that sounds silly, but it actually happens because it's simply a frequency. And religion deals in frequency as well, but it does it kind of unconsciously.
Mm-hmm. Well, belief is the strongest power in the universe as far as I'm concerned. If you believe something, you will make it happen.
Yes, even your unconscious beliefs and intents. And those are the scariest because we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
So how can you tell good spirits or practices from evil ones?
I love that subject because anytime we go into judgment of something being good or evil across the board, we've frozen it and therefore put it into an imbalanced position. I think of good as things that are in balance and evil, if you will, as things that are out of their natural order. So they're not, it's a real different way of looking at it. But if we take what we think is good and we say we're going to apply this to every circumstance, there will come a time that it's evil. So say, for instance, if I go out there in the spring and start ripping the little shoots of corn out, because I think it's fall and I'm going to harvest. That's fine in fall. But in the spring, that's going to make the people starve. And that would not be an activity that worked within natural law. It would not be an activity that was at the best interest of everyone concerned. So in the spring, it would be evil. And in the fall, it would be the right thing to do to harvest.
It's quite a paradox.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah.
That's what we forget is that things change, life moves, and the key is moving with it and doing what's appropriate in the moment with a good heart and good intent.
So we must be more adaptive.
Yeah. Things are changing much faster now. The dogmatic adherence to a particular way worked when things didn't change so fast. But now things are changing so quickly. We really have to be mindful of being flexible and know ourselves, know our heart, and stay in integrity.
How would you define dogma?
Dogma is a real interesting thing. It also has Latin origins, and it's a belief in or a set of beliefs that's accepted by members of a group without being questioned or doubted. It serves as part of the primary basis of an ideology or belief system and can't be changed or discarded without affecting the entire system. So it's this frozen kind of way that everybody agrees on, and the minute you step out of that, things start to fall apart around you. And if you can't move without things falling apart, we have a problem.
What is your take on divination tools like dowsing rods, tarot cards, Ouija boards?
The key is the word tools. They're simply an extension of yourself to help you recognize what you already know on some level or another.
So would you say that it helps the practitioner to focus?
It's exactly what it does. So I teach my students how to set an altar in order to set their intent into what they call cast a circle, which sounds really mysterious, but basically it's orient yourself in time and space. So where's the north? Where's the south? Where's the east? Where's the west? Where's the center? What seasons do they relate to? What qualities do they hold? Well, we're not worshiping these things. We're simply finding the different divinations of nature to find a balance point within ourselves. Now, I first teach people to do this by literally, physically setting an altar. But I do it by simply taking a deep breath and aligning myself with space and time where I am. And that puts me in center so that what I bring through or what I say or what I do is coming from a balanced place in the moment.
When you were talking, I just had a flash in my mind that based on what you were saying, feng shui could be looked as a method of divination.
Yes, it really is. It's certainly a method of setting space.
Yes.
So there's a little difference between divination and setting space, and I'll set space before I do divination, so I'm sure that the information I'm pulling through is accurate and balanced. But feng shui is a beautiful way of setting space, but it can be dogmatic if you're not careful with it.
I wonder how many people fall into that gray area each and every day without realizing it.
I would say every one of us, unless we're one of these evolved monks.
Well, what would you suggest as a practitioner that people do to make themselves more aware of the gray area that they may be walking into and get back into the light, so to speak?
Well, again, I go back to those checks and balances. Is anything I'm doing taking away energy from someone or something else that we're taking it away from it does belong? Is anything I'm doing imposing energy on someone or something else where it doesn't belong? Am I working without permission? Am I working within the rules of nature? Am I doing harm? And if I can stay within those rules, then I'm operating pretty clean. And that I need to be in part of that equation. I might be doing things that are out of balance for myself, giving too much or working too hard or whatever, where there's not balance maintained. Balance is the key, and being easy on yourself and loving with everything is the way to get there.
When you were talking before about prayer circles who, pray for people whose permission they may not have received, what's the worst that could happen? For example, let's say a parishioner of a church has gone to the hospital and they're going to have an operation, and the members of the congregation decide to pray for the speedy recovery and the health of the person in the hospital. Is there anything really wrong with that?
Well, here's the potential pitfalls.
Okay.
We judge illness and death as bad, and therefore pray for health and life. And I understand this on a personal level, particularly with the people that I love. But one of the most challenging things for me is coming to a place of understanding that sometimes people have choices that they make, whether consciously or unconsciously, that don't move towards health and don't move towards life, and that's their path. And if I try to pray against it, I'm prolonging their suffering and aborting their process, and that's not mine to do.
But doesn't the Pope, I'm just using him as an example here, doesn't the Pope pray for the masses? He doesn't have their permission. Like, he doesn't call me up and say, "Hey, Rob, do you mind if I pray for you?" But when he's out and giving a mass prayer,
Yes, he is, and yes, he does, and yes, he has one heck of a backing behind everything he does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an interesting thing, isn't it?
So is he actually doing something wrong?
I don't call it wrong. Like I said, sorcery is not necessarily wrong. It's just out of balance. And if we continue to do things out of balance, nature's bigger than we are. There's going to be a backlash. It's going to snap back into balance on its own. And the more out of balance we are, the stronger that snapback.
But how do we know that what we're doing may not be the right thing to do?
Well, what's the right thing? Again, like I said, I get up every morning and I try to center myself in time and space and season, and I set my intent to walk in a good way, as you would say in the native traditions. And then I just follow my own footsteps, and at the end of the day, I give gratitude for everything that's happened, and I reevaluate, and I said, well, I could have done that one a little better. Tomorrow will be a better day. So it's a checks and balances things with myself.
Do you think that this world of ours is going to be coming to a point where we will be able to recognize and live in total harmony, no matter of any religious affiliation that the occupants of this planet may have?
Well, Jesus said the poor have always been among us. Well, the dogmatic and the judgmental have always been among us as well. And I see that there's a place for all of that in the circle of life. It's just that now we're moving into a time that really more supports unity and harmony and love and tolerance and understanding of one another. And that includes being tolerant and understanding of those that can't be tolerant and understanding, but not being subject to them. So I think all the above will always be here. It's just, where are we? What are we focused on, and what are the masses doing? And in that case, yes, I believe that we're moving much more towards unity, harmony, and love.
If there are all these different types of shamanism that you talked about earlier this hour, what is the origin of shamanism? Where did it originate?
That's an interesting question that I don't know that anybody incarnate has the answer to. It's between 40 and 50,000 years old. It was practiced in ancient Egypt. I believe it was actually a way to commune with people that are not people, but beings or whatever that are off planet as well as on planet. And I feel like a lot of the shamanic information that's come through over the eons, where something would be built or done or created that was way outside of the cultural base of the time, came through shamanic means, and it came from outside of the planet at the time.
So when you said off planet, what do you mean, extraterrestrials?
Well, not quite that simple. It's like there is influences that come to us. We know this from the way the planets are moving, from the way the galaxies are moving. The horoscope is a very small part of these influences that strike the Earth at any time. And each of them have their messages. And if we can learn to read the frequencies of those messages, we can understand more about life here and implement it and cooperate with it and be backed by the power of it.
Shamanism, you said, has been in existence or practiced for 40,000 years. If we haven't learned that by now, what are the chances of us ever learning it?
Well, I think that when we went kind of into what I call the long dark, and that's a time when the sun moved into a part of the galaxy that has lower frequency.
Right.
When we have lower frequency, we have less enlightenment. We have less enlightenment. We have less vision and wisdom. And when we moved into that time, all we had left really was dogmatic adherences to the rituals that we used to use to access spiritual information or the quantum level. And now as we're moving into a higher frequency, we can use those same practices to re-access that information. And eventually we can transcend the practice and simply hook in. And that's the times we're coming into, and that's what's exciting about it.
Do you think we may have reached a point in our evolution where religion and rituals no longer have a place in society?
I do, but again, I have to do the caveat up. Each according to their gifts, each according to their limitations, and there's a place for everything. Mm-hmm. It's just what's the most going to be going on. I know that I, for the most part, don't use ritual much. I just drop into that space and access. But when I'm doing a class or giving demonstrations for people or working with a larger or more difficult method, I'll drop right back down, chop wood, and carry water, and do it the step-by-step, visible way. So there's a place for all of it, but I think it's where we put our power. my power is not in the candle. My power is not in the objects that I put on an altar. My power is not in the altar. Those are just things that help me focus to access the power of the planet and the power of life and the power of the universe to use in a good way.
The power of the universe. How powerful is that power, and how can we harness it?
The power of the universe and beyond, of course, is what I've come to know as God. And the way to harness it is we are of the same thing. We're created in that image. And so everything, right down to the mitochondria of our cells or our DNA, are aligned with the way life works. But if we don't align ourselves with that, we lose power. We have what we call power loss.
Right.
But we were designed to access and wield power in a good way. If you don't do it in a balanced way, you lose it because you come out of balance.
When we come back from this final break, Gwilda, I'd like to talk to you about where and how free will plays a part in our each and every day of our life, and how going against what we may be told to do because of our free will can affect us. Is that a plan?
That's a plan.
All right, Exo Nation. Gwilda Wiyaka is our special guest this hour. And her website, www.thescienceofmagic.com. That's her radio show. And if you'd like to find out more about Gwilda Wiyaka, visit her website, gwildawiyaka.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. This is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 6 p.m. Eastern until 10 o'clock Eastern at night. And then the show is repeated in its entirety the following morning from 1 a.m. until 5 a.m. Gwilda Wiyaka, the host of The Science of Magic, will return with me on the other side of this break as we continue looking into the world of the paranormal, the science of parapsychology, and everything in between. Don't go away.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back.
He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com. Welcome back, everyone. Gwilda Wiyaka is our very special guest this hour. And Gwilda is the hostess of the Science of Magic radio show that airs right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information about the Science of Magic, do yourself a favor. Visit her website at www.thescienceofmagic.net. Gwilda?
Yes.
.net.
.net.
There you go. Okay. A little bit of host-guest participation there. Before we went to the break, free will. You know, you go and see a psychic and they give you a basic path. Nothing is guaranteed in life because of free will. Where does free will fall in as far as shamans are concerned?
It plays a really big role in that, particularly the way I work. If someone comes to me and they say, okay, well, I want to get over this thing that's bothering me and I'm not feeling well and, this keeps reoccurring in my life, and I'll have them set what I call their intent and bottom line. And their intent is what they want to change, and their bottom line is under what circumstances they want that change to occur in their life. And the reason I go to all that problem before I do a healing for people is because that's what drives free will, but mostly unconsciously. So if we can bring our intent and within what parameters we want to experience that conscious, then we can consciously participate and make our choices. Because what comes to me is, okay, well, you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this. Life is not just one single path, but multiple faceted paths that we choose every moment of every day. And if we're just staggering around, unconscious of our intent and unconscious of our will, then we just create the common denominator. But if we can really focus what we're doing and take every step in cooperation with the way life's working at the time and our options that line up with what we want to create, then that's manifesting free will.
What about the way that shamanism looks at the multiverse, multidimensional paradoxes, string theory, quantum mechanics, quantum physics? Is any of this a part of what shamanism is and where it's going to be in the future?
I really believe so. Like I said, we've come out of a low-frequency time, and quite frankly, Rob, when you and I talk shamanism, we're talking the leading edge of it here. We're not talking what most people understand as shamanism out there.
Right.
Mostly people out there are doing the rituals and getting good results. They're doing the healing rituals, and they're getting good results. They're working the machinery, and it's working. But underneath all of it is string theory, is quantum mechanics, is, they're working at the quantum level,
right,
where the push-pull of life starts before manifestation. And if you can affect change out there or make correction out there, then it cascades down into the physicality.
Gwilda, as always, whenever you're with us, time goes by so fast, my dear friend. Thanks very much for joining us and for sharing your wisdom and for helping us get a better grip of what shamanism is. And as I told you the other night, Exonation, shamanism is not the occult. Gwilda, let our listeners know how they can find out more about you, dear.
Sure. The radio station is The Science of Magic. It can be found at thescienceofmagic.net. I have a personal website, gwildawiyaka.com. And then I have a shamanic art school, state certified, and it's findyourpathhome.com. And I love to get your emails. You can always contact me through my website.
Gwilda, take care of yourself, and we look forward to the next time you and I meet here in the X Zone. Until then, stay well, my dear friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Exonation, Gwilda Wiyaka has been our guest of this hour. www.gwildawiyaka.com, or you can visit her show, The Science of Magic, at www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'll be back on the other side of this news break at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.